Good afternoon and welcome to the Lake District. If you're new around here, hi, I'm Caroline and I'm going to be travelling around the gorgeous lakes for the next week with my other half Andy. This morning we've made quite the long drive up from London, so this afternoon we are going to be doing a much shorter hike up to Orrest Head. It's a 4.5 kilometre circular loop hike and it's supposed to give some spectacular views out across the lake and potentially out across the North Pennines and maybe even out across the sea. I think it all depends on what the visibility is like and how hazy it is too. The first part of the walk goes up through some beautiful woodlands. The sunlight is coming dappled through and amongst the leaves of the trees, which I'm starting to think might not have been the best of ideas because the weather forecast for the remainder of the week is saying that it's going to be pretty much cloudy every single day, so I was looking forward to just that last bit of sun today. That said, the sign at the beginning of the trail said that there are supposed to be some red squirrels. We're keeping an eagle eye out, just seeing if we're able to spot any. We know that they are very elusive and we did manage to get our fix of them earlier on this year when we were over on the Isles of Scilly, so I think it would just be sheer luck if we were to come across them today. The other thing that we've noticed is that there is a growing tree that people have gone in, like hammered coins into, which seems like just such a shame. It's different, I think, if it's dead. One of the reasons why I wanted to come and do this walk was because on the All Trails app it's rated as the third most popular one. I wanted to check it out for myself and understand exactly why it's so popular. I did wonder if because the trail starts exactly where Windermere train station is, that for anyone who doesn't have their own set of wheels, it's just a great way to be able to get the train on in and you can do a walk without needing to use like a bus or a taxi or any kind of tour service. There's this little point in the Farmer's Wall where you start to get a spectacular view over Lake Windermere, and then out to this way, I think, which is like in the direction of north, you've got the stunning fells and you've got farmers' sheep. And I can imagine that if you're a first-time visitor to this area and this is what you see like 10-15 minutes after having got off the train, I would be absolutely blown away by this. Andy is taking great pleasure in pointing out every single bench on the way up, because when we started the walk we were very hungry, both of our tummies were rumbling, and whilst I wanted to start filming at the start of the hike, I was also aware that we really needed to eat before I properly started the vlog. So I said, okay, well, we'll just sit here, like there's a bit of place to dangle our feet. And he kind of joked and he said, I bet you anything, as soon as we're finished eating here, that we'll see another bench. And we have seen bench after bench after bench. But the good news is that if the uphill climb is a little bit too much, there are plenty of benches for you to be able to just stop and rest along the way. Playing a little bit fast and loose with these All Trail app directions. There are loads of waymarked posts and the penny's just gone and dropped that the orange and red one is the most direct, but the incline's a little bit like this, and the blue one is still getting everyone to exactly the same place, but the difference is that it kind of meanders around, so it's a lot less direct but also a lot less steep. We have inadvertently chosen the red one every single time. Made it up to the top of Orrest Head, and there's like a bit of a plaque here that seems to hint that this might be one of the Wainwrights, which if it is, I didn't realise that. So I was thinking that Castle Crag that we hiked last summer was supposed to be the lowest of all of the Wainwrights, and to me I think that this one's probably lower. I don't have any data at the moment to be able to check and fact check this one, so I will update you hopefully when I get a little bit of signal later on. The plaque is also explaining what all of the different fells and peaks are on the other side of Lake Windermere, and you can just see Scafell Pike through there, as well as things like the Coniston Old Man, which is what I hiked quite a few summers ago, and a few of the fells that we are hoping to tackle this week too. As stunning as the view is out over Lake Windermere, and of course if you're looking eastwards over all of the fells, it is very busy up here in quite a small space, so we're quite eager to press on. It is possible just to do the Woodland Walk back down the way in which we came, and even though the signage was saying allow about 30 to 40 minutes to get up here, we do think that if we hadn't been stopping for lunch and to film things, we probably could have blitzed it in about 15 minutes rather than just blitzing it back down to Windermere. In those 15 minutes we are instead going to do the suggested longer circular walk that was on the All Trails app, and so we're going to be heading northwards off of this viewpoint, heading I think in the direction of Troutbeck, which is what you might be able to see in the distance behind me. The trail is pushing us through farmers' fields that are incredibly undulating, and it wouldn't have necessarily have been most obvious as to where we needed to wander, but very helpfully they've got a whole load of waymarked posts, and this is just bringing us out to a stunning viewpoint with these like rolling hills on either side, and it just dips down where we need to walk through, and it's just opening out to another brilliant view over Lake Windermere. The thing that I really like about Lake Windermere is how pretty it looks with all of the sailboats on it in comparison to Derwentwater, which we spent an awful lot of time around last summer, and that one just seemed to have more sort of pleasure boats that just weren't quite so pretty. I do have very fond memories of Lake Windermere because growing up I used to get brought over here for one day each summer. We had some kind of distant family members who had a speedboat on the lake, and when I was super young I got to go tubing, getting dragged along in like a tube on the back of the speedboat, and then unfortunately they put a ban on that, and then after a few more years it was suggested that I might be old enough to have a go at water skiing, and then a few years later they put a ban on speedboats from being able to go fast enough to pick up enough speed to be able to drag along a water skier on the back. It's one of those issues whereby some people believe that at least one of the lakes should have been left for speedboats to be able to speed along so that people could do things like water skiing, whereas others, they believe that a national park should be very peaceful and left to its inner beauty. I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Would you like to see things like water skiing being put back on the lake for people to do off of their own boats, or do you think that it should remain nice and peaceful the way it is today? Do let me know in those comments below. Whilst there have been a small number of people who've come off of that viewpoint to the north, and I guess they're going back on the same trail as us, it is a tiny percentage of the people that we had all traipsing up through that forested field. And I have to say, if you do decide to go up to Orrest Head, you definitely want to come and do the big circular loop, because these farmers' fields that we are walking through are just picture perfect. Throw in the sheep that really don't seem to mind humans just like walking through their fields, and then these stunning views out over Lake Windermere. It's definitely worth doing the loop and not the there and back. I was first introduced to hiking over in the United States when predominantly hiking within their national parks. One of the really big differences that I've picked up on between hiking in UK national parks and US national parks is that there it seemed like they had very specific trails and you had to very much stick to them, whereas here we've got so many right-of-way footpaths that all crisscross amongst one another. You can kind of make it up as you go along, and it's just one of those things where the All Trails app has said to go a specific route, and we were wondering up at the top, are we just walking for the sake of walking if we don't loop back on ourselves? And the payoff was immense, but I do feel like there has maybe been a little bit of a shortcut that would have cut out some of the woods that we've just had to walk through, because we're starting to lose views and the farmers' fields perhaps aren't quite as exciting as what they were a little bit further up the hill. The trail seems to be pushing us around the back of people's houses, and then it's just opened out at a point where I think there's like a shared driveway that serves a couple of different properties, both of them with private keep out signs on either side. But one of them was so gorgeous, I just stopped to get some footage of it. And I started getting attacked from above with these like nutshells. So we think that we've seen a red squirrel, but it was right up at the very, very top of the trees. And I think they're quite smart, because as soon as it sensed that we realised that it was there and I was like filming upwards, it was just gone. It's such a shame, because the red squirrels, they just seem to be getting wiped out by the grey American ones, and so if we are able to come across them, it's always a really nice sight to see. We're now back at the information point with all of the maps at the beginning of the walk, and it was a cracker of a little walk. Whether I personally would award it third place of all of the best trails here in the Lake District, I'm really not too sure, and I think it's not really until time after when you can start to digest these sorts of hikes to be able to think about where you might rank them. But I can certainly see bang for your buck, the kind of views that you get, the ease of being able to get up there, and then also the fact that you've got Windermere train station right on the doorstep of the trailhead. I can definitely see why it's been so popular and had such high ratings on TripAdvisor? No, on all trails. But I had tried my hardest to organise all of the meals and everything for this week so that we wouldn't have to do an epic supermarket shop, but I have most definitely forgotten some staples: pasta, rice, jam and milk. So we're going to pop into either Booths or the Sainsbury's local, whichever is open at this hour here in Windermere, before we make a move up to the cottage that we're going to be staying in for the next week.
In true Croydon style.
If you know Croydon, then you will know, just me having this out for these like split seconds, I probably would have been arrested if we were still back home in Croydon. Yep, they're going over to it. Okay, am I just seeing things? No, do you see?
Paraglider.
But you can see something.
Yes, paraglider.
Would you like to tell me that it's a paraglider one more time?
It's a paraglider. It looks like a paraglider. What is it?
Or is it a bird?
Well, I was just thinking it might be a glider.
I don't think that's how the saying goes.
You guessed it.
Superman. Success.
Yep. Pringles, pork pies.